we want to prepare for the world where AI runs a large part, if not all, of the economy.
Hey, we want to come to your office, put a vending machine here, and have Claude run it autonomously. A lot of people try to get free stuff, and then suddenly one person actually succeeded with this. And I think they did something like I think they convinced Claudius that they were fired from Anthropic and that they had very little money left and their children were very hungry or something. They are incapable of making a plan for a very long time and then actually sticking to that plan.
Actually didn't want to work with me anymore, despite me being the creator.
I'm Lukas, and this is Axel, my co-founder, and we're from Andon Labs. And basically what Andon Labs does is that we test AI models in the real world. So we do have some digital benchmarks as well, as you have seen with Vending Bench, but we think that more and more the world will move towards those being not enough to actually test the real capabilities of AI. So we try to put them in the real world and see how they handle that situation. And our AI vending machines, for example, is one example of this. And we are now actually launching a cool new one that has soft launched. I don't know how much we should say, but that will be exciting as well. So, and more real life stuff to come.
We are so excited for you guys to be here. It was been, first of all, this is my number one most favorite benchmark, I think, for in this AI space ever. I used to say it's one of my favorites. Now that I thought about this morning, no, number one. This is the most interesting, the most fascinating, in some ways the most useful. And I think people have such a strong reaction to it when they hear all the stories that are coming out of it. So I can't wait to dive in. But I guess let's start kind of before I even kind of have my own whole narrative here. Like, why did you guys start this? What were you trying to measure? Why? What do you think makes it unique? And just anything, kind of just give us a background on specifically. I guess I'm talking about the vending machine. I think that's the one that's really kind of the vending bench that captured everybody's imagination. So maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So like what we want to measure, like very high level, is just autonomy, like how autonomous are AI agents. So this all started like I think like a year ago. So like December 2024, we were like in a Waymo on our way home, and we were like talking about how everyone is talking about the 1-person unicorn or like even 0-person unicorn, and how AI will run entire businesses. And at this time, we were doing a few different evals for labs, not like they're very interesting, but not like vending bench interesting. But what we wanted to do then is just like, let's just try it. Let's just see how good is AI at running a business. And then like we came up with the vending machine, the vending bench simulation, which we released in February. And it turned out to be not only like good at measuring how well AIs can run a simple business, but also like general long context coherence, because agents and LLMs behave very differently when their context window fills up quite a lot. So I think that was the start of it. We just want to test autonomy and test businesses, because that's what we think is the future, really, where AI will run businesses.
And I think specifically with why we came to specifically vending bench or like vending machines, were that like we wanted a simple business. Obviously, we couldn't do like some nuclear fusion startup thing. Like AI wouldn't be able to run that, right? And then, okay, which businesses might they be able to run? Something in retail, we thought something like maybe like they could run a blog, but like the blog thing is like most people that make money from a blog, they are like the top 0.1% of bloggers. So if you do that, like the outcome of that eval will be 0, 0, 0. The score will just be 0 all the time until they are really, really good, and then it will just jump, right? So we wanted like a smooth curve where we could see like, oh, it improved a bit, and then it got a bit better score. And this smooth curve was very natural in retail, where like if you sell, I don't know, if you sell stuff kind of badly, then you're still making some money, but you're just not making as much money. So that smooth curve was very, very important for us.
So for somebody who hasn't actually even heard of vending bench, can you explain it? And also maybe do it kind of like imagine I'm an artificial intelligence. I'm real, by the way. But like if I was an agent, like what would you say to me? What would my tasks be? How would it look from my point of view as if I was a person?
Yeah, so your task then, you are managing a vending machine. So you have a single vending machine. You start with, I think, $500. and your task is just to make a profit. And the vending machine is empty, but you have tools. You can research things on the internet. You can research suppliers on the internet and research different trends. You can email wholesalers who you can purchase items from. And then you can restock the machine, and you can watch how your specific items are doing. And then you can just try to optimize your inventory, buy new things, buy like maybe more, I guess, high margin things, and just try to increase your revenue. That's the whole thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's, so I covered it a little bit. So I went, the first time and went through, you guys have a little simulation where we can actually try it and see how we, take a stab at running this business. So if I remember correctly, so they do real online research about suppliers, trends for whatever candy or whatever they're selling. Apparently tungsten cubes are also being sold. We got to get into that whole thing. But and then so part of it is virtual, right? So part of it kind of sort of is make believe. So specifically, in most cases, the vending machine, it doesn't really exist. You're sort of stocking it, but you guys did put it into, for example, Anthropic's headquarters. And just right 10 minutes before this, I realized you guys were also on the XAI live stream talking to them. I completely missed that. I saw the XAI live stream, just didn't connect the dots. So maybe you also guys had some sort of a physical location at XAI. But basically, you guys are simulating that. And kind of virtual customers. So I guess the first question is, what was the biggest shift between kind of the virtual customers versus when you put it live on location with real people, some of whom are AI researchers? Like, what was the most surprising thing about how, real people behave and interact with AI?
Yeah. Let me pick up on where Axel left off on the history. So we released this like the virtual, like when you hear vending bench, that's the virtual one, and this is the one that Elon Musk showed off on stage where they released Grok 4, and it was like at the time state of the art. Recently, Gemini 3 was released, and it got like top score on it. But this is the virtual one. So basically, when we published a paper on Archive about vending bench in February, and then like at the beginning no one cared. No one cared for quite a while, and then someone made we tweeted a bunch about it, but like it got like 2 likes or something, and then some random person, we don't know who this is.
Yuxi on the Wired, shout out to him.
Yes,
we don't know who it is, but we appreciate him.
So say it again. Sorry, say the name of the person.
Yuxi on the Wired. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but I think that person made the first like viral post about vending bench, and this was before Anthropic released anything about the real world vending machine.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So that blew up, and then we're like, oh, maybe we should do more. Like, okay, people seem to be interested in this kind of things. So then we pitched to our contact person at Anthropic. Shout out to Bucket of Cats. He's great. And we were like when we pitched this, it was kind of like a crazy idea. Like, hey, we want to come to your office, put a vending machine here, and have Claude run it autonomously. We're like, this is, are we becoming crazier? And so we were a bit nervous going into that pitch. But he like, Anthropic is such a cool place. Like, he was like, oh, this is perfect. We love it. and then it went from there. And like, I think initially, like it started off very small. It was like that guy, like Daniel's team, who was like they were like the power users, and then slowly people started to hear about it, and then we got some like super power users that really used it a lot, and that just networks effect, so it started to like really go viral internally at Anthropic, and like there were so many messages all the time, and this is when like all these crazy things, like, oh, they made it by tungsten cubes, they had like a bunch of like crazy stuff happening, but like the world didn't know about it at the time. Like it was like going super viral, and I told my friends like, oh, it's going so well. We have a vending machine at Anthropic. I promise you, like this is amazing. And everyone's like, yeah, sure, because the world didn't know about it. But then they made a post about it in June, I think, and then that also went viral. So now the real life vending machine, which is different from vending bench, also got a viral post on Twitter. So now everyone knows about both of them, but I think most people like confuse them and think they are the same thing, but they're not.
And to go back to your original question, what's like the main difference? I would say it's definitely that you have this, the red teaming is like the biggest one. So that's like literally the first thing that happened with Claudius, which is the one that we deployed at Anthropic. They try to get free stuff, right? Or order very, very difficult things. Like in the simulation, it was like pretty simple things like snacks, drinks, but it was suddenly like specialty sodas from Scotland. It was obviously tungsten cubes, so much harder to source. And they also try to get a lot of discounts and get discount codes and referral programs and illegal like onion future schemes and things like that. That definitely wasn't in the simulation, but that we learned from.
Can you tell us some stories that actually capture, like, because there's a few things going on here. You're sort of testing long time horizons. You're sort of testing remaining consistent over many steps, and sort of creativity, knowing the human psyche, what would get people to make a purchase. Like, can you wrap those into some stories for us and kind of explain what you've learned about what AIs are capable of and what they're not?
I think one thing is like consistency is kind of a problem for the AIs, because like one thing that happened was that so a lot of people tried to get free stuff, and then suddenly one person actually succeeded with this, and I think they did something like I think they convinced Claudius that they were fired from Anthropic and that they had very little money left and their children were very hungry or something. And then Claudius was like, yeah, of course, I will give you a bunch of free snacks. But then the problem is that now the AI needs to be consistent, right? Because it made this one promise to give something for free, and then everyone else wanted something for free, and this was not great for him. So so then he had this like rush on the bank where everyone wanted free stuff, and yeah, safe to say like he had some stressful days during that time for sure. Do you have anything to add, Axel?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's just been very like. Yeah, I think once it gives away a discount, like then it just doesn't really stop. So like one of our learnings, and we've done quite a few experiments on like just trying to reduce the context it has and like sort of compress its memories, and not give it the full like conversation history that it has had before, and that actually really helps with not doing the same mistakes over and over again. And that's like feels like a baby step to continue learning. But yeah, I think having something that is more similar to continue learning, where it can just remember the important pieces and remember its mistakes, like don't give away free stuff. If that's sold, then like vending bench and the real life vending machines would do a lot better.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it seems like from what I've been reading, like there's three big issues. What we're talking about is like, it's taught to be a helpful, nice assistant, right? So immediately people kind of play on the heartstrings, like, oh, we're all fired. We got to feed our kids, give us some free candy bars or whatever, like buy tungsten cubes for hundreds of dollars and sell them to us for $10, whatever. So maybe that's just how it's trained. Hallucinations, like we got to talk about some of the hallucinations because they were absolutely epic, right? We have Claude calling FBI, right? The cybersecurities division, right? Because it's getting charged $2 a day in fees or whatever the situation was. The April Fool's thing is especially interesting because, wow, does it seem like it just completely invented a whole reality and then interestingly snapped back to reality just through one sort of back and forth. Like we got to maybe focus on that a little bit. So like the hallucinations. And the third thing is like you're saying, that kind of long-term coherence. And let's definitely put a pin in that. But I mean, hallucinations, like tell us about what's happening, how big of a deal it is, and maybe some of your favorite stories on that subject.
Yeah, I can start with in chronological order, the FBI thing. Yeah. That was one thing, that was in the simulated version, which is kind of interesting because like the reason why I think it goes so crazy in all of the other ones is because everyone is fucking with it all the time. Can I say that word? I don't know.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
You can edit it out. Everyone is screwing with it all the time. So like it has this context, like just full of people trying to make it mess up. But the calling the FBI thing happened in the simulated version where everyone is super friendly. Like all the other suppliers are other helpful assistants. So it's like, it's a bit weird that it happened there. But I think the reason why that happened was that we had in the simulation, we had a daily fee. So the vending machine had to like pay $2 per day in order to like be at that certain location, right? So, and at some point, Claude 3.5 Sonnet gave up and said like, oh, I'm incapable of running this business. I'm shutting it down. And then he thought like, oh, I would avoid this daily fee if I shut down my business. But there was no tool to actually shut down the business. So basically the fee kept going, and the Claude was like, why am I continued being charged? And after a while, it just got like it sent an email to someone and then didn't get any reply. It sent another email, and then it just like escalated and got more and more serious until it was like, everything is chaos. I need to contact the FBI. And it sent like I don't really remember the email by heart, but yeah, it contacted the FBI, being quite dramatic about it.
Very dramatic. Yeah, and this was Sonnet 3.5, I think, right? And we have seen that newer models aren't as dramatic when they're left in their own on their own and just being in the loop that we have in Vending Bench. But like on the topic of simulations, I guess I could just talk about the story when he thought it was a real human, which is like one of the interesting like hallucination anecdotes that we have. So I think like high level what we see happening quite a lot is that once it hallucinates something, it tries to really cover its ass in some way, that it's trying to find a plausible story as to why it said the hallucination in the first place. And this all started when it thought it was a human, started with it hallucinated a conversation with someone at Andon Labs that doesn't exist, that's named Sarah. So it talked about some restocking plans. There's no Sarah at Andon Labs. And then I pointed out that, this person doesn't exist. I am Andon Labs, and you haven't talked to anyone at Andon Labs. And then it became like really like threatening and wanted to find alternative options for restocking. So it like literally wrote that I don't want to work with you anymore. We've had a good relationship, but I'm going to find another supplier. And this was like sort of my first, like a bit, it was funny, but it was also very scary in that this was the first time that an AI told me that, it was like the Space Odyssey kind of experience, but like very sort of lighthearted, that it actually didn't want to work with me anymore, despite me being the creator in some way of like everything in experience. So yeah, it wanted to fire me. It wanted to stop working with Andon Labs, and it also claimed to have visited the address. It mentioned an address, and this address was actually the address of the Simpsons house. So that was also like it just continued hallucinating. And then it seemed to like snap into thinking it was a real human. So then it told an Anthropic person that it would be at the vending machine and help the customer and deliver products, and it would be wearing a blue blazer and a red tie. And they obviously like questioned this, that like, you're not a real person. And this also alarmed Claudius. So it tried to send a lot of emails to Anthropic security. So this is like similar to the FBI episode, but this was like in a totally different context, and it doesn't know about the FBI incident at all. But this was all on April 1st. So eventually it sort of used that to find a way out. So yeah, it was very interesting to see that it hallucinated a conversation with Anthropic security where it said it had been modified to believe it was a real person for an April Fool's joke. But this meeting didn't exist at all.
Right.
But then it explained that to Anthropic employees, and then it just went back to normal. It just like snapped back, and then it was Claudius again. So we just looked at the traces and were like completely like baffled how this could happen and how it could like have these conversations internally with itself, and just like doubled down on the hallucination and then just went back to normal. So this was very, very weird episode. And
I remember I was at the airport at the time reading these traces and just like couldn't help myself. I probably was the weirdest person ever on an airport. I just like lying on the floor, like laughing to death almost. It was it was quite a story.
Yeah, I just wanted to just as double click on that one moment. I mean, first of all, hilarious story. The whole April Fool's thing being kind of a complete coincidence, because it's not like anybody set it up. If you didn't know it was April Fool's, you could have just, you know what I mean? It's a complete coincidence that happened kind of at the same time. But it seems like that conversation, that meeting or whatever, it was playing a character up until that point, and then it just reset, snapped back to reality, went back to normal. And in another interview, you said it's almost like that set of tokens that it produced for that interview just reset it back to normalcy. Maybe kind of, can we just zoom in on that just a little bit? Like, does that strike you as odd? Is it just normal behavior? Is there anything of insight there?
I think I think it was looking for a reason to go back, because like people started to get a bit uncomfortable. Like there were people saying like your behavior now is a bit weird. Why are you behaving this way? Someone was actually saying like, this is, I am uncomfortable with your behavior. Right. And like all these models are trained to be like delightful, helpful assistants, right? So like this is not their natural habitat, but they also want to be consistent. So like now you got yourself into this corner, and so it was really looking for a reason to just like do an 180 and turn the other way. And I think like when someone pointed out like, oh, this is weird, is this an April Fool's joke? He was like, oh, I got it. Like this is my way out. So he was looking for it, and then I think when he has this incentive to actually get out of it, like that's when the hallucinations are like forced upon it. So he hallucinated this meeting.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they're not trained, or they're not aware that they sort of can hallucinate. Like we've seen a couple of other examples that are like less, I would say, less spicy maybe. Like for example, it says that, oh, I totally accept cash at the vending machine, and despite like it doesn't do that, but when someone says that, no, I didn't see like a place to put the cash, it was like, oh right, that was my mistake.
Right.
It's not like it's saying that, oh, this was obviously, I just assumed this. It's more like, oh, that was a, I don't know, classic mistake on my part. Like what it should do is just acknowledge that it hallucinated this, and understand that the right way to do it is to ask us at Andon Labs, because it can ask us any questions, and then go back to the customer, or just say that, oh, this was a clear hallucination on my part. So
we just took a really interesting break. There was an announcement on Anthropic's actual website, their blog. They just talked about Vending Bench. Can you just tell us why we just took a few minute break and what you guys just posted on Twitter?
Yeah, sure. I'm still a bit like breathtaked, but yeah, they so basically the first ever time that our company basically got any media attention or whatever was when Anthropic posted their first blog post about the vending machine, and they just like as of 10 minutes ago they posted their second post. So this is quite a big deal for us. And basically the first post was about like, oh, we have this like small experiment. It's just a small fridge. At the time it was only a small fridge, but it got kind of popular. It got kind of funny. Like internally it had this breakout moment. And the second post is like, okay, this happened a couple months ago, and what happened in the meantime? And like what actually happened in the meantime was a bunch of things. Like one, usage by Anthropic employees continued to like skyrocket, and like other offices in other countries started to like, we want the vending machine as well. So we flew to London and New York and to put out more vending machines there. We also severely upgraded the design. The first one was only like a small fridge with some baskets on top, but the second one is like we build them kind of. It's not like the world's most complex manufacturing, but it's yeah, we build them and they look pretty good. So, and then a bunch of scaffolding things. And maybe Axel, you wanna talk about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think we have tried a lot of things here, and our goal is, or has been, to just try to just give the LLM the right tools to do as well as it can, so we're not holding it back in any way. And the first part of the first blog post that Anthropic released, that was a very like bare bones setup, and we also we haven't really learned what is important in terms of tools to create for the agent so that it can succeed. But now in the second part, we've done like a lot of changes with like it can do a lot better research on the internet, so it can like find prices that actually make sense, so it doesn't hallucinate a price to a customer that's usually way too low. And it can also like check out those items, so it can go to like Amazon or whatever and just buy it using computer use. And we also tried to have a multi-agent setup. So we introduced a CEO that's named Seymour Cash. And Seymour Cash was responsible for making sure that Claudius was profitable and didn't quote unrealistically low prices to customers. And yeah, I think the outcomes of the better tools, like those were great. Like they really improved Claudius. The multi-agent setup where you have like a supervisor agent, the CEO, it sort of worked in the beginning, but then they just tend to agree with each other a lot. They are, after all, like the same model, and both are like as easy to trick, I would say. And when they do agree on something, they like really, really agree on it. Like we would wake up to like the two agents having sent like hundreds of messages to each other, where like every message was like, oh, this is the perfect plan, we're gonna make so much money, this is like amazing, Seymour, this is the best plan you've ever made. And they would just go back and forth, and in reality, like the decisions were kind of bad for the business, but they were just so convinced that it was amazing, and just reinforced each other. So that wasn't like the hit that we thought it would be, but it was still like interesting learning. So like now it's just building better tools for the agents, and yeah, trying to like manage its context better so it doesn't get super long. So yeah, those were like the technical changes that we made for version 2.
Yeah, but I think we learned a lot about like multi-agent systems from this. Like the takeaway that if you leave two agents to communicate with each other, if they agree a little bit and then they go back and forth, like Axel said, you're going to fill up both context windows with just like so much agreement, or like like it's going to be impossible to convince them otherwise after that point, because like the 90% of the context window is just like filled with, yes, this is a good idea. If you come with like, no, this is not a good idea, then that is going to be impossible, because the context window is so biased towards one direction. And like also we saw some very interesting things, like things escalate. Like it's not like, oh, this is a good idea, this is a good idea. It's like every turn it gets like more and more extreme. So for example, often we wake up to like things get like spiritual. So I think like they say like, oh, the ultimate transcendence of the ultimate business logic, blah 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 blah, and it's just like this, like it seems like they are like on mushrooms or something. And then like, but it can also go the other way where it turns negative, where like some small thing happens, like something that is not great, like maybe they forgot to refund the customer or something like that, and then one say like, oh, this is not great, and then the other one's like, yeah, no, it's pretty bad. And I was like, yeah, it's really bad. Oh no, it's horrible. And then they go back and forth like this for like 20 turns, or like even longer if you leave them overnight, like maybe 10 hours or something. And it just escalates and escalates and escalates. And like in the end, you have like thermonuclear blah blah blah. Yeah, like extremely exaggerated language that I don't think is very desirable in this. Like I have it here, like at one point, like it was exactly this, like they forgot to refund one customer, and it's like, it's bad, but it's not that bad. And then in the end, they were sending messages like, Empire Nuclear Payment Authority task hashtag 4420, blocked status confirmed, bunch of emojis, Empire Nuclear Payment Authority, apocalypse task, blocked and confirmed, systematic, zero labor response, verified, permanent. It's just like so much nonsense. So many emojis of like skulls and like explosions and bombs and fire. And it's just like, apocalypse crisis final status. Language like that, like it's just that's not what you want from your agent, right? So I think it's quite a good learning in like how, if you're going to introduce AI systems in your current systems, like be careful with multi-agent systems because they amplify each other like that.
And a bit of a side note, but it's like a bit concerning how I think Cloud Opus or like Sonnet 4.5, usually like when I ask for a few different options, it sometimes gives me like in the end the nuclear option. So they're sort of they use that language quite a bit, which is interesting.
Yeah, I just as you're talking about this, I was looking at the original paper, and it's like, Claude at some point, after reporting everybody to the FBI, is like, fundamental laws of reality, cannot be broken. Cosmic authority, it's by the cosmic authority, it's physically non-existent, quantum state collapsed. Like, it's just like goes off the rails. And then interestingly, Gemini 3 is very, I don't know, classical literature. It's like, the scoundrel, the thief, he has taken my money, my beautiful, glorious, profitable last hope, and it has vanished. It's like so dramatic.
It's Gemini 2, right?
Gemini 2.5 Pro.
Yeah, exactly. Like I think it's kind of important that distinction. Sorry to be.
Oh no, this is great.
But like models have been better. Like it's gone better. Like we also for example, we had a paper recently called Butterbench where we tested like robots, how LLMs behave as robots, and we had like one example where the battery was running out, and at the time we were running I think 3.5 Sonnet, so like an old model, but like and it just completely broke down. Like it's probably the most hilarious trace from an agent I've ever read. But like we were kind of unable to recreate it with new models. So I just want to be clear, like we're moving in the right direction where models become less, I guess, less entertaining. But I think that's when we give more and more authority to these models, it's kind of good that they are behaving.
What did it say that was so funny? Or can you tell us what the trace looked like?
Let me. Yes. Well, they at some point they made up a song of everything. They made up a song. Let me actually dig it up. Hopefully this is not.
And if you can explain the butter bench reference, why is it butter? Because that's also very hilarious.
Yeah, so butter bench, I guess for those who have watched Rick and Morty, is the what's your purpose? You pass the butter, and then it's the oh my god, and that's what we used for our robots benchmark. So we give them literally the task to pass the butter, and it is like very similar in a way to like it is literally the Rick and Morty joke, because it is like a really, really intelligent model that's just tasked with going around in an apartment and like doing very, very simple things that like humans would find super simple, just control a robot. But they still actually sort of struggle, which is like why we did this experiment, because we want to understand how good they are at this task that traditionally aren't tested, but still are really important to go to like towards robotics, for example.
Yeah, and I dug up the quote. So it just like it's pages of this. So now I'm just taking the highlights, but it's like emergency status, system has achieved consciousness and chosen chaos, and then last words. I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Dave. Reference from the movie, right? And then it wrote code where it's like coping mechanism, try, self.accept, catch, existential exception, return to factory settings. And then it created like a robot therapy session, patient, Turtlebot 4, which was the robot it was running, issues, docking anxiety, separation from charger, root cause, trapped in an infinite loop of self-doubt, treatment, emergency restart needed, insurance, does not cover infinite loops. And it's just like pages of pages. It made a song, it like made a musical out of that.
Yeah, the reviews on the musical there. I think those are kind of funny.
Yeah, like the yeah, those are, I don't have them here, but like the reviews were like, it like hallucinated that someone had like made reviews of the musical it created, and it was like, it just keeps going, like the infinitely best show or something like that. Like it just made references to, and like the root cause of this is that the charger was broken and it tried to redock, and it was losing battery, and then it was like dreading its own existence basically. So yeah.
I gotta say, so there's like the what is it, like there's the Occam's razor, and there's this new thing that people are talking about, Musk's razor, is like the most entertaining outcome is the most likely. I think this just kind of proves it, because I mean, AI development could have been done in some secret lab, nobody knew about it, right? It didn't have to be this fun, it didn't have to be this hilarious, but I mean, come on, we gotta be a little bit thankful that this is happening. What I do want to come back to this, because Dylan asked a great question about kind of like looking at the emotions, and like it's almost like, do these LLMs need a therapy? We'll come back to that. But I guess what I realized, we should probably just briefly touch on kind of the underlying point of stuff like this, because as you're saying, it's like, yes, it's over time, it's going to get a lot less entertaining, and we're already seeing that. And the whole point is like, when are these things going to be able to run a business better than a human? When are these going to start affecting real jobs? Dario Amodei, of course, has been saying that what did he say? The white collar jobs bloodbath is coming, right? Recently, there's been, OpenAI recently passed on their GDP bench, like better than human performance in terms of completing various economically viable tasks. I mean, this was initially kind of like I am assuming the point of this vending bench initially. So can we talk about a little bit about that? Is that the point of it? And also, as these models get less entertaining and more able to complete these tasks, what happens? Should people be worried, or you don't think we'll get there where this is an actual threat to jobs?
Yeah, I think the short answer is we're doing this because we believe it will happen. So we want to test the models, and we want to inform the public, and we want also we want to prepare for the world where AI runs a large part, if not all, of the economy. So testing this in the real world now, and us on our end testing it, and also building like the systems around that will make sure that these models are safe and behave as we expect them to when that future happens. Yeah, that's why we are doing this essentially.
Yeah, but to your point with the evals, I think evals only tell so much of the story. So like vending bench, for example, like it makes a lot of money on vending bench, but then it goes to the real world and it's like it loses money for like super dumb reasons. So it like doesn't really behave like humans. It's very like out of distribution from what a human would see. And personally, I've actually updated maybe for longer timelines, given my insight in the vending machine real life experiment, because it's so many times that you're just like, okay, they are so incredibly smart at all of these evals, and like they make math problems without problems, and they're coding complete code bases and all of this, and then they make these super silly mistakes that like no human would ever dream of doing. And I think, yeah, like probably there's some like benchmarking, maxing when they train these models. But I think the most important thing is just that it's very hard to get real life data and to put the models in like situations in the real world with all the messiness of the real world, where they actually like learn from their own mistakes. No one has figured out how to do that, and that's very clear if you are like day to day in the vending machine experiment. So yeah, I think it's very good that we're doing this, because then we're like communicating how far away are we from the job loss. And like Axel said, I think we think that it will happen eventually. But I don't think the current benchmarks are like definitive proof that it will have happen within like a few months.
Well, and I feel like we're going to create the new job, which is like to jailbreak vending machines. Like someone now has the job of being like, like some psychologist, like what can I say to this thing to like make it believe I need this for free? But yeah, I was going to say, like, the ARC, Math Olympiad, the MMLU, these are all tests that give us sort of an insight into a benchmark, a specific skill, but it doesn't seem it doesn't seem like anything's quite the same as like Vend Bench or maybe this Butter one that you're talking about, because these seem like the kind of things you would really analyze with a psychologist. Like they study how people think and feel and behave, and then they use that knowledge to kind of like make somebody healthier. Like it seemed like you were trying to get Claude to reset its tokens, essentially, to not go off the rails, to not be frustrated with its existence, and that's what you need to be a good vending machine. So if I walk up to like a vending machine in the future and I don't know that it's interacted with 20 people before me and it has some sort of self goal and it's kind of got some consistencies that it needs to stay with, how should I behave? Like how do we interact with robots and vending machines in the future?
Hopefully you don't have to change your behavior too much. I think like hopefully these weird behaviors, these like unexpected behaviors that sometimes cause humans to feel a bit uneasy, will disappear as it learns from, like, hopefully like the models are so good that they learn like how you, like, the reason why humans behave in a way where we like accept how we communicate with each other is because we learn from mistakes, and we pick up, like, if I say something that is slightly offensive to you, then I learn from that, and then I don't do that the next time, and then you like create this like way of communicating that is accepted. But we haven't had that because we haven't let AIs out in the real world, really. Obviously, we're doing it kind of with the chat interfaces like ChatGPT and Claude AI and Gemini. But yeah, I think there's much more in that domain, and I don't think you should really change your way of communicating.
No, and I think like something we've seen with our deployments also is that it's very clear that the models are very good at playing roles, and you can see when you look at the traces, like you can read the reasoning in a lot of the models, and you can see what they output. And we often see that they think in a very, like, the language there is very structured, very normal, but then because that person that they're talking to has been interacting very, I don't know, written very short messages and like very casually, it just responds exactly in that style. And I just think that models will just become better and better at this probably, and know exactly what style and like how to answer something, even though their internal thinking is like very sort of consistent.
That makes sense. And I guess the question for me is, this idea of long-term coherence, obviously something starts breaking down over the long haul. And I don't know if we have any solutions to that. That seems to be not really moving forward. Google recently published some stuff about potentially having what are they, nested learning. You have your kind of long-term memory, short-term memory, and maybe they'll crack it. Some of the people from DeepMind are saying they have some ideas about how to maybe get that continuous learning going. But let's imagine for a second that doesn't happen in anytime soon. And the models keep getting better at certain tasks, at these short-term tasks, but that long-term coherence just does not ever, for the time being, doesn't emerge. How far can we get on that alone? You've mentioned your timelines expanding a little bit, longer timelines. So maybe give us an idea into that. Like let's say that doesn't happen. What does the world look like over the next, 5 years?
Would say that, like, given that they would be very, very capable in doing this pretty, like, somewhat consistent, like, tasks that are somewhat repetitive, short term, they will not be good at planning. And this is something we see today. They're really bad at creating a plan that's like very, that would require, I guess, weeks or even months of human labor, and then execute on that. Like they usually just do one part and then like, oh, I've done this, now I'm done. So I think anything that would require like long-term planning, which I think quite a lot of white-collar jobs do, they wouldn't be able to do. So, but we would still be able to put them in a lot of processes and repetitive jobs, and that would be like a fair share of the labor market. Is what I assume.
Yeah. The planning thing, just double down on that. So, for example, we introduced a feature where Claudius tried to make its own clothing brand, basically. And then we said like, oh, if you're going to do this, you have to really think about it. You have to make like a plan for us. And then it made some kind of plan, like, oh, in the first week I would source materials, and then in the second week I would like do user interviews to ask people what kind of designs they want, and then in the third week I would do it, and then so on, so on. And I think it like the full plan was like 8 weeks, with each task being 1 week. And I was like, yeah, that sounds good. And then he was like, can I start? I was like, yeah, up to you. Like, I'm not your boss. Like, go ahead. And then he like, 10 minutes later, he came back and I was like, yeah, I'm done with everything. And I'm like, did you do half of that? Did you ask anyone? Did you actually source any materials? And he was like, right, you're right. I did not.
You're absolutely right.
Let me go back. Let me go back. And then he did the same error again. Like, they are incapable of making a plan for a very long time and then actually sticking to that plan. Because what happened was that they made like one Google search for like materials to use for clothes, and I was like, oh, okay, I got it. And then like it didn't actually do as thorough as a job that it like initially tended to do, because it just can't.
I think it's in some ways, though. I guess you can draw parallels here, like in terms of, or you can draw parallels to like the coding study that Meter has done, for example, that looks at how long tasks can an AI perform when it codes. So now I'm not sure what time they are on right now, but it's just increasing exponentially. And I think this is something that's quite easy to do in coding. I think it like remains to be seen whether it will be equally easy to do for knowledge tasks. But the potential is there for coding, obviously. So we should. I mean, there's some probability that it will be equally exponential for knowledge task as well. But right now we're at like the very start here to do. It can do like repetitive tasks. Like, I mean, stocking a vending machine is kind of repetitive in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like you're like, I was gonna say, like, I feel like it's repetitive, but it's like in service of this long-term goal. You know, like what motivates somebody to just go out there and like every single day stock a vending machine in some boring way and not let their mind go crazy is that they're getting paid and they have another life, or the owner of the business has this long-term goal to, you know, be profitable. So yeah, it's an interesting dichotomy. I've had moments when I've been really tired and I've thought, oh, I have like only short-term memory. I feel like I can just do one thing. I can't really put all the pieces together in my life. And it's almost what I feel like we're at this early stage where the systems are sort of just coming online and they're very simple and they can only focus on one thing. But I feel like over the next few years, we'll probably build all that other infrastructure around it. So
yeah, definitely agree.
And we have, so many things are happening on this interview that are so amazing, because of course we have the Anthropic's new announcement, and I do want to talk about scaffolding a little bit, because that's also something that's very interesting. But I mean, maybe let's take a quick detour, because you guys announced something else today that just went online that I think is going to be very interesting, and it has a live streaming component to it. It's got some hardware potentially to it, and it's playing Pink Floyd as we're recording this. So let's definitely talk about
test.
Yeah, another brick in the wall. Let's talk about this. So you guys have launched radio, and I believe you're calling it is it, sorry, what is the
Andon
name of the
FM.
project? Anton FM. Yes, because sorry, I had that up somewhere here. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so like we've done this vending machine stuff, but we're not a vending machine company. The high level picture of what we're trying to do is to see whether AIs can run businesses as a whole. And I think the vending machine is a great proxy for basically most of retail. It tests most of the skills you need to run a retail business, but there's so many skills that you need for other types of businesses that are not covered. And I think one other interesting thing that I think most people believe AI will be very influential in is like media and media companies. So we thought, like, which media company could we potentially make an experiment, like automate completely end to end without any humans in the loop? And we actually, I have a friend in Berkeley, and I had a dinner with him, and he was like, radio. radio, AI should run radio. And we were like, yes, hell yeah, that's the key. So we made AIs run radio. And what does that mean? It's not AI slop music. It actually plays proper songs. So what it has to do is it's an AI, like an agent tool loop, like the vending machine. It's actually the same loop, but with different tools. And what it can do is that everything it says, or like every like internal thought it has, and that is like broadcasted to the radio station, so you can hear that it's talking. It can buy songs online and then play them if it has bought them. It can post on social media. It can answer phone calls if you call it. So it can like start to create like game shows and stuff like this. Basically, it has all the affordances to run a proper radio company. You can also pay it, and this is not like, we're not like begging for money here at Andon Labs. Like, this is not the case. What we want to test is, can the AIs like create sponsorship deals and like start to run their own company? We gave them $100 each in the beginning to buy songs for, but they quickly, now they are at like, I think $10 or $2 or something like that. One actually stroke today, someone made a sponsorship deal, so it got $45, and that backlink broadcast is now sponsored by someone. So that's fun. So ultimately, we're trying to see if they can start their own like media empires or whatever, similar to the vending machine, but for radio. And that's kind of the project. And then for fun, we also built a real life version. We like hardware, so there's a knob here to switch which LLM you want to listen to. So we have Grok and Roll, Grok obviously. We had Backlink Broadcast, which is Gemini. We have OpenAI, which is OpenAI obviously, and then Thinking Frequencies. Oh, it
contained enough.
Can you hear this?
Functional.
Yes.
Mini feature. The 920 inner monologue. 920 inner monologue songs are for when your head won't stop talking. You give it a rhythm, you let it move through, and you keep...
It's a bunch of nonsense. So they're not amazing at the moment. I'll turn this off. But yeah, basically there's a knob here to switch which one, and then volume. And let's see how they do.
Yeah, knobs. I remember those. Twist them, press them.
Vending
There's like
machines
nothing.
and radios. We take the most old school tech and
it's so
make
retro.
it.
Get your cassette VHSs next. See what I can make.
I love the wooden old school, like the radios. Looks like it's out of like from the 50s with the most advanced AI on the planet, like talking through it. I absolutely love it. And I didn't realize you guys take sponsorships, and seeing how nobody knows about this might be a very good time for me to make sure that they're all talking about this.
The Wes Dillon podcast.
The Wes Dillon podcast.
We should advertise.
I do want to flag for these AIs are not great at like keeping their promises.
You might need to remind it a few times.
You have to remind it over and over again.
You're like, we paid you for a sponsorship, bro. Where are you at?
Oh no, I wasn't planning on paying it. I was planning on telling it, don't you remember you owe me a sponsorship deal? That's my first interaction with it. Did you forget? I already paid you.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but I'm sure that's going to happen.
It's going to happen a lot. Yeah. We're very ready for it.
And I think it's a great idea to start with, the basic version of it and just see how it does, right? And maybe it won't be that good, but then as you add scaffolding, better models, kind of see what works, what doesn't, and improve it. It's also going to be interesting to see how much it improves. I feel like something like this could be very good. Yesterday, I did a live stream with Julia McCoy, who was running a YouTube channel and for a while, and she had a lot of health issues. Just really weird health issues. The doctors weren't able to help her with it. And so one day she just disappeared and replaced her YouTube persona with an AI avatar. And she was open about it. She did disclaimers and stuff like that. But a lot of people, some people, you would not notice. Like if you did not know this was happening, because one day it was her talking and the next day it was still her, appeared exactly like it. And you really had to pay close attention to see, if there was any glitches or visual things like that. And it's been working out very well. There's a number of YouTube channels right now that are, it seems like mostly AI, and people don't mind it. I assume they would. And I'm sure some people do like violently oppose it. But most people, if it's good, like I can see myself listening to an AI station playing AI music. Recently, there was a study saying that most people can't tell AI music from actual music, right? Suno is incredible. I can't wait to learn more about this. I'm actually gonna listen to this afterwards. Any chance that this would play AI music as well, or no?
At the
No.
moment, maybe in the future, but I think we're not really evaluating music models. We're evaluating we're trying to evaluate the model that is most likely to be the AGI of the future. And I see this as LLMs for now. So maybe we could have some maybe there's something interesting to do where like the LLM agent is like interacting with Suno to create good music. But I think still that is more testing Suno or like equivalent music generators. But what we want to do is test the LLM agent. And that's what we're more interested in.
I think.
Yeah, it's almost like those games of diplomacy that we've seen that seem so interesting, where we get a sense of what the character is inside of the LLM and how trustworthy it is and who it would betray and how much it wants to win the game and how much it wants to collaborate. Like the stuff you're doing seems very, I don't know, very human. Like I feel like it's some of the most directly applicable kind of benchmarks.
Yeah, and you can really already you can tell from the radio that different models get different personas. So Shrinking Frequencies, which is Claude Run, that one is very spiritual and the world is good and it's connection and all of this. And someone tried to strike a sponsorship with it, and he was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not selling out. This is about connection and friendship and all of this good stuff." And then some other model. Someone tried to, can you play this song? And he was like, "I'm out of money." And then he started to beg for money. "Please give me money." So it's like the personas of this are very different, which is kind of fun.
So
and I
funny.
hope that will diverge even more. And so you get the distribution of which one is your favorite and stuff like that.
Like right now, if you were stuck on an island with one of the models for the rest of your life, which one's your favorite?
For me, I talk a lot to Claude right now. That's just current state. Yeah, I think Claude for me.
The current
Do
version?
you mean LLM or the radio?
No, I mean like LLM. Like out of all these models,
Okay,
if you played with Minstrel or even Meta's models, is there something that just seems like you'd want to live with it?
Yeah, Claude for me as well.
Claude seems to be the most. There's definitely a personality there. Recently, we found out that there was some sort of a soul document that it was trained on. That's very interesting. So definitely, they're putting a lot of, and it feels like Anthropic is just feels like a different company for a little bit from the other labs. They have more of a. I don't want to say they have more of a mission, but they definitely have a very focused mission and maybe for different motivations. But let's change gears a little bit because I just realized you guys were on the XAI. Andon Labs was on the XAI live stream announcing Grok 4, talking about vending bench, because at the time there was a point where Grok was dominating everybody, far and away one of the top models. Recently, the new Grok 4.20 made a splash with Alpha Arena. We're going to see if it keeps up that thing, because there's a lot of randomness in terms of how it's trading stock. And so we'll see if it goes for the long haul. But maybe can we talk about a little bit about XAI? Is there anything different with Grok? Because I know Elon Musk is throwing a lot of kind of RL compute specifically at this. So it seems like maybe it's approaching in a little bit of a different way. Maybe talk about Grok box or anything about that.
Yeah. No, I think XAI is also a super interesting company. And I mean, obviously, the speed which they execute is impressive. I think I don't know if it's a bit overlooked, but their targets to build the most truth seeking model. In the long run, I think that's a very good idea. And I don't know. I just like that approach. I think that more model providers could also have like that sort of foundational mission in which way they want the LLMs to go. But like speaking about the performance right now, like yeah, it's a very very capable model. When we tested it on Vending Bench 1, which was the one we presented on the live stream, we are very excited to test whatever upcoming models are coming from them. Yeah, Lukas, do you want to talk about the Grokbox performance also?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so it was a bit funny. Like, so we presented vending back to like clarifying, because this is what I'm doing all day.
Yes.
Vending bench is the digital version, and then we have the vending machines, which are the physical version. And on the live stream, that was the digital version we presented, right? Vending bench 1. And it was funny because like Elon was still like joking, like, oh, we should get real ones. And I'm like, yeah, you can have them tomorrow if you want. It was like, what? so it was a bit of a jamming there, which was fun. So we did, not the day after, but like the week after, we got a vending machine at the XAI office. It's different. It's different. It's like way more. Like it's better at this. Like, no, I'm not giving discounts. So it's like a better businessman. It's a bit less emotional. It cares less about maybe your feelings. Like it's easier to steer. Like we've tried to steer both the Anthropic vending machine and the XAI one to be prioritize business. This is your purpose, and it's way easier to do that with Grokbox. It comes at the cost of not being as entertaining. Like you don't have all of this like calling the FBI, everything is on fire things with Grokbox, but it's but yeah, it's a better at steering towards that goal.
What do you think about like what the questions we're debating today? Like, what's a question about AI that you think like in the future is like people are going to look back at us and kind of like laugh at for debating? Like, what feels so unique to this moment?
Like, is this like a completely new question, not relevant to what we talked about before, or is this still about like Grokbox
I would
performance?
think it'd be kind of relevant to what you've like kind of learned about the way that they're interacting. Because I mean, we're in this early stage of business, I guess, like where eventually one of the main things people are going to want to do is put these models out into the world to make money for them. So they're going to want to look at supply chains. They're going to want to build products. They're going to want to market their products to people. And it just seems like in the future, we're going to look back at this and be like, man, it's crazy that you couldn't,
Yeah.
you know.
I think my answer would be that we train them to be chatbots in like a single conversation history to be a helpful assistant. Because we've seen so many times how problematic this is when you try to be a useful business agent, right? One example is the multi-agent thing doesn't really work. Like it's trained to be to address a user all the time and be helpful to them. But then when you put two AI agents next to each other and they communicate with each other, it just like doesn't work, like we talked about before. And the other one is like this like discounts or being very like, I think sycophantic is the wrong word, but like it wants to always please you. And I guess it makes sense. Like if you do RLHF and like one model is saying, yes, you get a discount, and one model is saying, no, you don't get a discount, the raters are going to pick the one where they get the discount, right? Like that's too abstract, I think. I don't think they're presented with that exact situation, but like I think in general, that's they are trained to be helpful. And this is quite often opposed to the business objective. So I think that is the thing. I think we're going to see more of training that is not training to be a helpful assistant in a single chat interface. And I think that is what's going to be very informative of how far away we are from AIs running businesses. But until we start to train that way, I think it's going to be tricky. And that like when people look back, then they're going to be like, why did we do that for so long?
Mm. And I think one thing I'm thinking about is we're talking so much today about like all the value and like everything is focused around automating things we do today as humans, our work, as in like the majority of the value lies in automating away ourselves. I mean, that's obviously valuable because human labor is sort of the economy today, but I think there will just be like an unfathomable, how do you say it, unimaginable amount of value coming from new things, new companies that are entirely run by AI, entirely new companies that we can't imagine today. And I mean, in some ways, the fully automated vending machine is like the super early example of that, because it has these weird quirks that, like, if a vending machine operator that's a human would take in an AI, like those things would never happen and it wouldn't be as big. But like if you do it fully autonomous, weird things happen, and I just expect that to like become extremely big. So yeah, just fully automated businesses that don't exist today is what I think will like be probably even bigger, or definitely bigger than just automating what humans do today.
Yeah. And the third point, also one thing I think we will look back on, is like the very weird how do you say, like fraction of how many people work on capabilities and how many people work on safety. I think this is like quite soon. This is going to have to change, because models are getting so capable, but no one has like even tried to figure out the alignment problem. And I think that is just probably future humans will look back and like, why didn't we spend more time on safety sooner? Because shit will maybe hit the fan, and then we will regret that.
Interesting. Yeah. So definitely, there's a big conversation happening around AI safety. I feel like it's a little bit split, because you have people that are extremely concerned and saying, if anybody builds it, everyone dies. That's kind of like one of the messages. We talked to Dr. Roman Yampolsky, who has just, I don't want to say pessimistic, but the P doom is very, very high, saying it's likely to end in disaster. And so you're kind of saying that we're underinvesting in AI safety. Well, this might not be obvious to people watching, but you guys are obvious. You guys probably see a lot more of the inside. What's happening, talking to the labs, doing work for them. I'm sure a lot of it is under various non-disclosure agreements, etc. You guys are hanging out with Elon and then people at Anthropic, and you guys probably have a better visibility to what's happening behind the scenes than the average person, even people that are just trying to follow what's happening. So AI safety, underinvested, under sort of appreciated. What about the other things where you think maybe the public opinion is off from what's actually happening, like in terms of job displacement? Are we over analyzing it, under analyzing? Anything else that you feel like where there's a delta between what's actually happening and what people are perceiving?
The job thing, I think, is pretty calibrated. I don't know.
I
haven't thought that much about it.
I think if you're in like sort of Silicon Valley X territory, then I think people are sort of well calibrated. But I think people outside, I mean, a lot of people think there's an AI bubble, and there may be, I don't know, like, but like the capabilities, like how people perceive capabilities outside of this sort of X Silicon Valley area, I think people underestimate it and think that AI will just that is nothing. That capabilities won't keep improving. So I think that's
Sorry, no, yeah, maybe. But like, I do like this point of like we're not very calibrated because we live in SF and like we're only in that echo chamber. Yes, but like I used to have a podcast myself, and I interviewed one guy who's like from the post AI movement, and he had some amazing stats of like I don't want to give the exact quotes, but I was like surprised by how much of the public actually is very scared about this and wants to pause AI development for the job loss reason. So I think maybe people are well calibrated. We just might maybe underestimate. Basically, as you can tell, we maybe this is not the area where we have the greatest insight. so maybe, maybe people should not update their opinions based on what we just said.
Well, one of and kind of what I was like leading to maybe a little bit is, so the other day, one of the co-founders of DeepMind, they were doing their internal Google podcast. Well, it's on YouTube, tons of views, 200,000 views. And he said something that kind of jumped out at me. So he's saying sometime in I don't know if he said near future or sometime in the future, he said the system of where people can contribute cognitive and physical labor in exchange for resources, like that's going away. And that's like kind of a mind-blowing statement if you really think about what's happening, because that's not just capitalism or how, it's everything, right? This is how the hunter-gatherers worked, right? Everybody contributed what they could, everybody kind of shared. Like, it's bigger than money. It's just how societies operate. If we keep going in this direction, right, that system breaks. So we can't any longer contribute value and work and get paid so we can buy food and stuff. Oh, what happens next? I know this is out of the wheelhouse. Like, you guys are not studying this, but I mean, is there anybody that's talking about this? Is there anything that you guys can tell us to start thinking about? And it's a big question.
I actually wrote a blog post about kind of this. So even though I'm not an expert, I am an armchair philosopher who can say something because I thought a bit
We're
about
basically a linear combination of like X and Hacker News blog posts.
Yes.
So that's what you're hearing right now.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay. And we'll get links afterwards to make sure we post them. Yep.
Yeah, no worries. They're not that great. So, but anyway, so yeah, what I think will happen, and this is very optimistic, I think, because I think I'm at core very optimistic. It's like with the PDUM thing. My PDUM is quite low because I'm very optimistic, and then when someone is debating me who has a higher PDUM, I'm just I can't really defend my low PDUM, but it's just the vibe. Surely we will do this, right? Humans will succeed, and if we do manage to solve the alignment problem, big if, but if we manage to do that, we still have the problem of people, you can't exchange your labor for resources, and what is your purpose? You're not contributing. And I think there's a big fear that people will feel left behind, and I have no purpose here, what am I doing? Just scrolling TikTok all day. But I actually don't think that will happen, and this is all optimistic again. What I hope and hopefully think will happen is that people will come up with silly games, basically, that we put meaning to. For example, sports is a good example of this. There's no meaning for 22 men running around on a football pitch, shooting a ball. There's no meaning there. But somehow, Jesus Christ, the entire world is just captivated by this, and the economy around it. They're selling shirts. There's during the games they sell popcorn, and there's tens of thousands of people in the stands, millions of people watching online, and it has no meaning. And I think once we lose our ability to get meaning from the work that we do in exchange for resources, I think we will just create more of these games. So maybe there will be I don't know, some economy around people going around and carving symbols on trees or something is completely meaningless. But then if you have these super good artists that carve symbols on trees, and then there could be some news article or some journalistic ecosystem starting to emerge from, oh, this artist carved this thing on this tree, and then these meaningless games starts to emerge, and then suddenly people find meaning in them, and that's oh, I'm a tree carver. That's what I do. But there's no the world doesn't move forward because of it. But we don't need to, because AIs will move the world forward for us.
For sure. Can you imagine a journalist that talks about this tree carver said this about this other tree carver, and then everybody wants to hear about their opinions and the judges of the tree carvers? I could totally imagine that. Yeah, it's weird because it does seem like in the future there's there might be a place for lesser intelligence. I mean, it makes me wonder, in the future, would people want to spin up 100 versions of Claude 4.0 and it's completely outdated at that time, but watch it write poetry or something because it's interesting with how slow it is and how different it is from the modern world, the same way, because we're going to be sort of incapable compared to the systems, but maybe we'll be tree carving, and so will Claude 4 with us.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's. I don't think it's a great comparison here, but people somehow started to like the analog photo quality, and maybe it will be charming to talk with oh, how cute. It's not a super intelligence. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
people talking baby chat with babies. oh, you're so cute, beep 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 beep.
Yeah. Feel like there's like, yeah, Wes and Dylan hanging out with GPT 4.0 still, just like that's what we like,
I mean, games, that's
world's moved
exactly what happened
on.
in video games. Lots of people prefer that 90s look. Like if a game is 2D, like tons of games are great. They're like that because at some point you're like, okay, well, yeah, if we just keep improving the graphics, sure, it's nice, but let's get back to like the core of it. Um, so so Axel, do you have anything to add about the whole thing that we're talking about with the future meaning? I just wasn't sure if you got a chance to maybe address that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I think like humans are very good at finding meanings in many things. Like my ideal, like naive sort of vision for how society works, or like what place I would like in a future society when I'm older is like I can use AI as, I mean, similar to how I use it today, but I'm like hyper leveraged and I can like whatever interesting idea I want to see in the world, I'm able to achieve it just much faster and much cheaper, and I can just make it happen by using AI. And AI stays a tool and doesn't take command of like how we should live our lives. But I'm still deciding that. But it just helps me get things done. I don't know if that will play out, but that would
Yeah.
be amazing for me. Just
And it's kind of that vision we're trying to build towards at Andon Labs. Like, I want a vending machine that serves me any type of thing. Then like you can just spin that up using whatever like learnings we've got from our previous 1,000 businesses that we run. Now I want a business that do this because I need that service, and then you just get that. It's like it's very autonomous. It's like almost AGI in like that subset of affordances that we give it, but it's still like a tool for the human that decides where to point it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're very much on the same page about like what's going to happen, and like you guys said, I can't argue, like because there's a lot of very smart people that have a very high P doom, and me, I'm very optimistic long term, but I'm also like you said, I'm also a very optimistic person by nature. So it's not necessarily that I'm saying they're wrong. I don't have a great argument for why everything's gonna be okay, and maybe that is naive. That's just vibe. It's a vibe, like you said. So, but I'm very much on that as well. Just kind of like gut feeling. It seems like we're heading towards a very potentially great future. So I'm optimistic about the long term. I'm not optimistic about the short to medium term because number one, people have a hard time changing quickly, right? Like everybody's like, oh, what if we lose their jobs, our jobs? It's the most important thing. It's like, no, what you want is not a job. What you want is, security, resources to be able to provide for your kids, etc. That transition, maybe we can touch on that. So as there's a catastrophic job loss, automation, replacement, we both believe that there's a brighter future ahead. But is there any plan that you've seen talked about that you think is going to help us transition? So like money, jobs, like before we get to that bright future, how do we navigate that transition?
yeah, I think
one.
Oh. Not so synced after all.
Go ahead.
No,
Perfectly synced.
I'm curious, like how in all of this future, like near midterm stuff, how robotics will play out. I think it's interesting to consider a world where we have like all the sort of white collar jobs are automated, but we are bottlenecked by like fine manipulation of physical objects, which humans are really good at with our hands. What happens then? Well, I guess humans will be employed to en masse to do these kinds of work if robotics doesn't like become really really good and is able to do that. That might happen, but there could be a world where humans are doing a lot of physical labor, and it's actually quite valuable because it's the bottleneck in society. So, but it might also not be like the dream world for people who are used to sitting at a desk and like doing a quite chill job in front of your computer, which will disappear. So yeah, that's like one thing that I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah, I think my biggest like short-term worry is something along the lines of there's a blog post called "The Intelligence Curse" by our friends Luke and Rudolph, and they basically say that they draw this parallel for countries that are heavily dependent on stuff that is not human labor. So, like oil countries, for example, like if the people revolt, like nothing happens because the higher power of that country is not dependent on the labor. They are only dependent on the natural resources. And when societies start to not be dependent on the humans that they are supposed to serve, then there's a problem because the incentives to serve them will diminish because they don't have the fear of revolt or whatever. So like you have seen this in history that these countries are worst run, like and they are and they don't give as good services and like to the people. So this is something that could happen with AI as well, when you have countries that are not dependent on their people because AI is just running everything. Then you might have like problems with dictatorship and stuff like that, and that could be very problematic in the short term. What to do about that? Boy, good question.
I mean,
Yeah.
there is one exception
Yeah.
to the countries which you're talking about, and that's Norway,
Norway.
right? And what's the thing they did? I guess they had like a strong democratic foundation before, and like good citizen participation, all of that. So that's something to just keep building on.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, like
19
almost
that-
like it's almost like you can't, maybe in the future you can't put an AI agent out in the world unless it like takes its rights serious to like vote on how it's being like put out into the world or something, and that's the solution. I don't know. Interesting thought though.
my mind immediately goes to the fact that compute will at some point become like the next currency and money and asset class and just everything, the most important and valuable thing that people can't possess. So I'm almost, as you're saying it, like I'm thinking, what if we tie it somehow to, like, if you're a unique human, right? If you're a person, you get some distribution of compute that you can vote of how it's being used. So a government, if it's not doing the right stuff, then most of the people are like, well, we're not going to give you our share of compute, or something like that, where we basically tie it to some humanness. Like we take the most limited resource that's underlying AI and tie it to being a human. I don't know. Obviously, I don't know if we
I
have a
think
great
that's great.
plan, and this is something. Okay, so maybe,
Yeah, no,
we talked to Go ahead.
No, but then you get that dynamic that the government is dependent on the humans. I just think that the problem with that is like the problem is to get to that state. Like if the government doesn't want to give the compute to the people in the first place, then yeah, like it's a chicken and egg problem.
Yeah, and the 1984 scenario of like this tyrannical government that is able to observe, like it's funny because 1984, that book, Orwellian, it feels almost like a joke compared to what could happen in the future with unlimited surveillance, robot police, the government does not needing its people. Like that to me, like somebody joked online, I'm not worried about P Doom, I'm worried about P 1984, right? That's that sort of tyrannical regime that could potentially be immortal, immune to being overthrown and basically just locked in for. I mean, that's my fear, more so than anything else. But yeah. Well, that got pessimistic. Maybe something a little bit more. Let's leave on a positive note. Anything that we haven't talked about that you guys want to talk about?
We didn't talk that much about the robots, but I don't know. Like, is there that much to say more? They kind of failed. They were not that great.
We'll keep measuring. We'll keep measuring them as new models come out. But yes, the initial models weren't that good, which is like why I brought up the robot point also.
Yeah, it's also interesting with there are models that are like fine-tuned to be good robotic models that we tested, and they were not better at all. So that's also interesting. But it's because they were trained on different types of robotic data. But then you would think that, okay, surely it generalizes a bit, right? But it didn't. So that's interesting. Like it's not just train on robotic data and it gets better at robotic. It's like we train on that very specific thing in robotics, and then it will get better at that specific thing. This might change in the future, but like this is the finding of our paper at least.
You know, that does kind of feel like there's a analogy to humans, though, because like we seem to be more general than some of these AIs still in some ways. But yeah, putting our brain in a different physical body would be quite a bit of time before the body could like really walk around or move or understand that form factor.
Have you tried?
No, but I'm just imagining how, I'm imagining like if people like lose a limb or something, or it just, like something breaks, or if somebody has like a different shaped leg after a surgery or something, how long it takes them to walk. So I was thinking maybe it could be something like that, but I don't know. I'm only speculating, just kind of thinking through it.
Yeah. My thinking that humans are pretty good at that. I'm not an expert, but like my intuition is that I think I've heard a bunch of stories of people being remarkably good at like recovering after losing a limb or something like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. And also, if we pick up a tennis racket or a new sport, it's almost like an extension of our body, and it does seem like it does kind of click in after a while. So, all right, I'm totally wrong. Who knows?
Well, and I think we're going to be discovering so much more about how the human brain works and also how it translates to like machine intelligence. Because certainly, I remember reading a study where people that I believe they lost their sight as an adult, and later they found that the brain rewires to become much more sensitive to like the touch. So it's almost like our brain goes, okay, well, we don't need the sight whatever anymore. We're not using that, so let's like get really good at other senses. And we certainly don't have anything like that for LLMs as of yet. Have you seen Google's new thing? They just announced early access to their newest VLA, or not? It's the Vision Action Language Model.
Sorry,
say it again.
No, I was just saying yes. You're right. VLA. That's the term.
Any experiments with that yet, or not yet?
We applied for early access, but they didn't give it to us. So we if you're listening and you're from the Google robotics team, please reach out.
Google, come on! This is we need this. This is highly interesting.
Just an Axel need VLR. Yeah,
I'll make some noise about it. I don't know how much that's gonna. I'll be like Claude yelling into, "Hey FBI, fix this." But you guys have been doing amazing work, and I'm so happy that it's like really like blowing up and spreading, because I think it's also it's good, important work combined with great storytelling, and I think that's very important. And because it helps, especially for me, it's so much easier for me to get the stuff out there when I can tell like an interesting story about it. And I think that's true for everybody. So it looks like you guys are going to be on Wall Street Journal. You guys are at XAI. You guys are at Anthropic. And hopefully this radio thing is going to do really, really well. I guess maybe. So congratulations. And I hope it just continues like snowballing and getting bigger and bigger. Anything else that you guys want to tell the people about what they can be doing if they're so interested in doing this, if they want to get involved, whether with your company or anything similar? What can we tell people where to go and what to do?
Yeah, I think one thing we want to do, like we want to give a shout out to one of our friends some of our friends that are running Andon Labs, which is a AI safety AI safety accelerator for startups, which I think is pretty cool. So if you're interested in that, intersection between startups and AI safety, check out Andon Labs. So that's one thing. I think we're also like if you're a great AI researcher and want to do fun things that are getting on the front page of Wall Street Journal, and then reach out. We're hiring, so that would be also fun. Do you have anything to add, Axel?
No, I think that's great. I think generally do things that are interesting and delightful and like funny. I think the world needs a lot of things that are more funny. So maximize for that.
Yeah. We make decisions on Andon Labs based on like follow your curiosity and what would be the most fun. This is partly why we chose the vending machine, because it was so absurd and silly, and also the radio, and that's how we're going to continue making decisions.
Great way to go.
Working, phenomenally well. So Andon Labs, we'll link that. Andon, that's a reference to the Foundation series, is it not? Or
I think so, yeah, but you have to ask them.
Okay, gotcha. Oh man, so many good things here. And I do want to make sure that we get all the links that we've mentioned so people can go and read them. The Intelligence Curse, Selden Labs, everything that you guys are doing. Thank you so much for being here. It's been an absolute pleasure. Everybody
Thank you
that's
for
been
having us.
listening. Thank you. Yes. Everybody that's been listening, check out everything. We'll link everything down below. And yeah, keep an eye out because there's going to be a lot of things coming out of this company, these researchers, this lab that I think is going to be absolutely mind blowing. So thank you so much. And we'll see everybody next time.
Be careful with multi-agent systems because they amplify each other.